them popping into the participant list now. Welcome. Good afternoon. Just about good afternoon here in Chicago. Um, we know it's morning time in the West Coast and mountain regions, and it's already afternoon on the East Coast, and I see folks coming on. We are grateful to have you here today as part of our webinar series, Staying Strong and Positive for Ourselves and Our Children. My name is Guy Schingoethe. Maybe I'll say my name a couple times during this as people come on. And I will be your host today as we continue along on Social Vitality Week. All right, so I'm your new friend. It's going to be a social day. So how about we move to the next slide as people kind of jump on and take a look at our title for today's session, Reconnecting and Rekindling. And as we were thinking about social vitality, this seemed like, for me, kind of the what's the mantra? Maybe that's not the right word, but just something that has just been keeps coming up over the past year, and during a really strange year. How my social connections and my social vitality has stretched a bit during a time when, ironically enough, we've all been stuck in our houses. Let's see who's joining us today. Well, I see Anna Rodriguez from Wichita. Welcome. Tammy from Pennsylvania. Andrew from Minnesota. Heidi from Illinois. Lawan Massey in DC. Welcome. See some people I see all the time. Dana from Illinois. That's right. When you join us, Yamuna, welcome. From Texas, Catherine Taylor from Texas, El Paso. Deborah from Illinois, welcome. Let's see, anyone else joining? Or I was gonna say, if you're joining, please drop your name, where you're from in the chat so we can see where you're coming from. Hello, Melissa from North Carolina. And we're just about at 12 o'clock, so we will get started on continuing our Vitality Week. Now, Denise from Maryland, welcome. As you've probably experienced, and we have a lot of folks here that it's not their first time, but we've been focusing our webinar series on the domains of vitality for the last 5 weeks or so, which has been really fun and interesting. And as springtime kind of is here, it makes a lot of sense to focus on how we're building ourselves up in all of these different domains. So I have the honor of talking with everyone here about social vitality. That'll close off the week with another Vitality Cafe. Well, hello, Alexa from Texas. But why don't we just jump in? Oh, Brittany from Chicago. Oh, Brittany Robinson, maybe. I think I know her. Let's just touch base on our ways to engage. This is, old hat for some of you, but just for that one person who's on this webinar that's thinking themselves, how can I engage? This is how. In general, you could put your phone on mute or your audio on mute just as a standard. But there will be opportunities, especially, welcome Laura and Roxana, especially in this type of format. I invite anybody who wants to jump in and share comments or experiences. If that's the case, just raise your hand and we'll unmute you. And then if your phone is muted, you'll need to unmute yourself, and then we can talk. If that's happening, please be patient with us because we're just trying to get around to folks. But I do invite anybody that wants to jump in and talk about some of these questions, or just go with the flow of where the conversation's going to take advantage of that. But generally, the best way or the more frequent way we engage through these webinar series is through the chat feature. So you can type comments in the chat throughout. I'd love to see them. I'll read them. I'm here with my colleague, Andrew Hitchcock, who will remind me if somebody has posted something and I haven't read it. But if you're doing that, make sure you click on the all panelists and attendees drop-down menu so that everybody can see it. Otherwise, it's just I can just see it, and then I'll see it and I'll read it, but then can't refer to it. Our agreements. We want to speak from our own experience. We want to use I statements. That's where we're approaching this from. Our golden rule, treating other people the way you'd want to be treated. Every response, every comment has value and is valid and welcome. So we want to make sure that we're creating a space that invites everyone's willingness to share. And so lastly, bringing your full presence, just trying to keep the multitasking to a minimum, if zeronym. This is my second time doing a webinar and developing my own words, but a zeronym. Keep our multitasking to a zeronym. That way you can be fully engaged and give your full presence. And I see people already posting in the chat that they agree. If you are in agreement with these agreements, you can do the same thing. Hi, Stephen from Oakland. I think I got a lot of agreements here. I agree. Laura and Roxanne, I said hi to them. Zero num. Oh, very good. Yeah, it looks a lot better typed out too. I think that is going to be an official word. And agreed. All right. Well, these sessions are a little shorter, so let's pop in. I mentioned this is Social Vitality Week. Social Vitality is about your support system and the joy that friends and families can add to your life. And what an interesting year when I think about that, being separated from your immediate circle, or, needing to stay safe and stay inside. And then where is that joy coming from? And it came from so many places, which I thought would make an interesting conversation. So when we are in this domain, these questions focus on the energy that the current people in your life support and reinforce. But again, I think the uniqueness of this past year has changed what it means to have the current people in your life. They also address how you're nurturing friendships and how improving your social life adds to your vitality, because everyone likes to party. Everyone knows that when you're partying all the time, or socially vital, that you're having a great time. And for some, building social vitality can relate to how you spend your time and with whom you surround yourself. Your friends and associates can enhance or undermine your vitality. So there are friendships that kind of bring you down. That's usually when we're talking about social vitality in a vitality cafe. We're really exploring all of those aspects. But if we're actually, before you move on, during our topics today, I think more exploring all the interesting ways that my social vitality got raised up this year. So now we can go to the next slide. And let's just jump into the first question that I kind of pose to you all. Is how did you feel about technology, and even how do you feel about technology that allows you to talk face to face before the pandemic? How did you feel about it before, and has that opinion changed? And please describe a little bit about your experience. And I guess I probably should have added a little tweak to this question to go beyond how do you feel about technology, but I guess technology as a social mechanism, something that you actually use to connect with friendships and have meaningful conversations or reconnections with friends or family. So feel free to pop in the chat. I see we got some responses already. Dana shares it's a love/hate. I love it for its usefulness, but hate it for its evasiveness. And yeah, I agree with that. And I think especially going into this past year where I didn't experience being stuck in the house so frequently, it was more like, gosh, like I'm glad it's there, but I'm going to stay away from that. I want to be able to be present and in front of you, and that to me meant effort. I was putting effort into my relationships. Steven shares, it has changed. I still don't like virtual world. I miss being with people, eating, seeing, and smelling, for sure. And Denise shares, I'm old school and never had a good knowledge of tech things. I can at least join in on Zoom and do FaceTime. Um, Tammy shares, I was grateful for it before I moved from Rhode Island to Pennsylvania. It was a great way to see my grandkids. Um, yeah, agreed with the invasive aspect. I really enjoy talking to people on Facebook group video, but I also turn off my microphone and camera options in the Facebook Messenger settings when I'm not using them. Interesting. Um, I'm thankful for Karen shares. I'm thankful for Zoom and technology that allowed me to work from home and connect with others, but feel that technology can bring us closer to people far away, but can disconnect us from people close by. Um, Thank you, Karen, for sure. That's like part of like I think the message of this is how for me my experience was reconnecting with groups of people that I hadn't spoken with in a while. And I'll describe a little bit about myself because I was a theater major, so I've done a lot of plays over the years, and I've done a lot of performances over the years. And so when you're doing performances, you're in these like groups for a little bit of time, whether it's like a comedy group that you're in for longer than a performance run, or you're in a performance for like an 8-week period plus rehearsal time, and you kind of create these really great relationships with the people you're involved with. I guess it works in any situation with a project, but once the show is over, you maybe see each other a little bit in the community, but you never really get back to that. That feeling you had when you were spending, a couple hours a day with each other. And I think that's been something I want to touch on. Let me get to some of these comments before I do that. So Vera, thankful for technology during COVID. I would rather be with people face to face, though. We had no choice during COVID. Dana, it has opened the door for a whole new world, though, through world travel, new learning experience, concerts, online games. So a new way to connect, but I feel it does not replace face-to-face interactions. No, I feel you on that. And if anyone wants to pop in, again, to speak, feel free to raise your hand, and we can address you like that. Um, but I think so. I think beforehand I was on the path of, it's good to have, but I rarely used it, even to talk with people that were far away. And then something about this past year maybe it was just so much time spent with it, made it available, or just easier, or it was easier for people to fit each other in. Maybe that's what it was. The people that weren't close to me. I'm thinking of some of the one-on-ones I had with former college roommates, former high school classmates that were still friends, but we always find a hard time connecting on the phone. Um, but the one, well, so thank you for sharing here. Let's before I dive deeper, let's take it to the next question, or your next topic, because we're talking about reconnecting and rekindling. So I thought it'd be worth talking about some reconnections, and maybe we could share some of those with each other. So looking back on the past year, share one or more reconnections you made. Who was it? How long had it been? I guess what that's trying to say is how long it had been since you had connected, and how did it feel to reconnect? Um, Again, I'll open the invitation to those that want to talk. Feel free to raise your hand, or just feel free to post it in the chat. So, like, especially over the last couple months, when it comes to reconnections, I was mentioning some of the time spent in performance. Uh, One person reached out from an old sketch comedy group I was a part of, and said, "Hey, we thought it'd be fun to kind of get together and watch old shows using Zoom." And these were people that I hadn't really spoken to. Well, your Facebook friends, but that's not, so the occasional like or whatever. But it's not the same. We were Facebook friends. Um, but most of these people I hadn't really talked to in years. These were a group of performers that I had joined. right out of college. So I was 22 or 23. And so far, we've met 4 different times to review. Um, you just watch old shows and reminisce and share old flyers and pictures. Um, so this was a group of like 5 or 6 people, and for most of them, it had been, yeah, probably like 15, 16 years since I talked to them or seen them. And it was amazing how great it was to reconnect. Like the laughs, the things you remember, the things you didn't remember that then you wind up remembering as you're watching these video documentations. So that one, it felt really good, and I was like, wow, isn't it amazing? I don't think I would have ever done this beforehand. Let me see here. I see some people responding to that question. Stephen said his sister and brother are out of state. They got into regular Zoom get-togethers, much more connected. The pre-pandemic. Can you explain what you mean? Were you much more connected before the pandemic, or this allowed you to be more connected? Denise reached out to my brother. It had been decades, no video time, but Facebook and Messenger connection. And it's funny, I have a brother. I have one brother, and he lives in Chicago, and I probably he's someone I probably talked with maybe less during this period. Brittany, I reconnected with some old friends from elementary school. I hadn't seen them in years. It was real cool to connect and catch up with them. Yeah, Andrew shares, I reconnected with a friend from Germany. We hadn't really spoken since 2017, but we FaceTimed despite the time difference of 7 hours, and had a little happy hour while we caught up on the past few years. It felt really great to reconnect with someone who I didn't have the possibility of seeing even before the pandemic. Yeah, that's the really cool thing. You wouldn't have, but then here you are all of a sudden talking with someone more than you would have. Melissa, I reconnected with my family overseas I haven't seen in 34 years. I'm so grateful for it. What do you think it is that allowed some of these reconnections to take place with people you hadn't seen for so long, or that you generally wouldn't talk to? They have fond place, like they have a place in your heart forever. I love you fondly and think of you often is something I would probably share with, I've shared in the past. But what is it about this period of time that made it so easy to open those up? Um, I don't know. Maybe it was boredom to a degree, when you kind of got into this period of time, and you're um, that's a good point. I think Brittany's making my point. I think because the past year has caused everyone to slow down. People are not as busy, and it's easier to connect. Yeah, like we're managing our time better. We're not running around all the time, or trying to find parking, or trying to get here. I mean, geez. I mean, almost 3 hours of commute time I gain back every year or every day this past year. And then that's pretty impressive. Yeah, any other thoughts about like what is it for you that brought it together? And Tammy shares, I'm thinking the shared experience of the pandemic, and maybe all the heartache and deaths having more of us thinking about our own mortality. That's a great point too. I think I've thought about that as well. You know, um, like here it's kind of, for lack of a better word, it's like if the zombie apocalypse allowed Zoom to work, I bet everyone would be connecting. But of course, the technology went down during the zombie apocalypse. But yeah, like some of the like the aspects of this like uncontrollable situation made it feel like like you just wanted to reach out to everyone. And I see, Tammy, you agree with my zombie metaphor. More time, life slowed down. um you can put it up there, Andrew, when you get a chance. um and then okay, then I'm thinking the shared okay, I got that. I think we're definitely focusing on what is important, reminiscing about fond shared memories for sure. For me, Najma, I hope I pronounced that right. For me, I needed this shutdown to connect to and with my family and friends on a real meaningful level, to get off the hamster wheel of work, sports, etc. That's totally right. And it's for me too. It's we just don't slow down. We get so what a gift in some ways to be able to slow down and kind of like think about these people and have the time to do more than just make a mental note. Oh, I've got to talk to them. There's a second part of this kind of question that I included here. What made these reconnections special for you? Do you intend to stay in touch? And okay, what was one thing that made it special for me? Is they pulled up these pictures from when I was from an old rehearsal, and I'm gonna have some fun because at the time I was learning my virtual background, and so I put this old picture of me as a virtual background, so you could take a look at me at take a look at me at 22. Can you see me? Look at that. I didn't even have a beard or anything. Goodness gracious, that was funny to look at that. My first rehearsal, I'm living at my mother's, and I hope did people see that? I hope they did. Um, and I walking to this first rehearsal, my first audition out of the gate. Um, but oh, okay, no picture. I guess I didn't go full Monty. Let me try this again. Okay, what about now? Sir, can you see the picture now? It's still a little cut off at the top. I was getting used. Oh, because of the PowerPoint slide. So now my virtual background is me pointing. Um, and I'm, how old am I? 22, or maybe I'm even 21 years old because I have an October birthday. Okay, enough fun, enough fun. Um, but I'll show you more old pictures of me. Yeah, where does the time go? Um, Later. Um, Andrew shared, it was special for me because it gave me a glimpse of my past self. I always loved the idea of progressing and growing as a human being as I get older. And to do that, I think reconnecting with people who are specific to a certain time in my life is encouraging and humbling. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Um, yeah. It was that I agree with Andrew. I value all my friendships and the people in my life when I'm no longer in close proximity with them anymore. This is Brittany. I think about them often, and whenever I get a chance to reconnect, it's very special for me. Um, yeah, for sure. I think what was new was in some cases like the frequency for of connecting, which made it even more special. You didn't have to get it all done in one session or one conversation. Um, and do I intend to stay in touch? I don't know. I think that's kind of like the scary thing. It's kind of like in a way, it's a little bit like camp, like I'm going to write you every day. And then are we going to get back into, things are going to return more to normal, but do I intend to stay in touch? Yes. In practice, we'll have to see what happens. So if anyone who wants to keep talking about this, feel free. But we're running out of time, so let's go to the kind of the part B of this rekindling, and I'll throw those questions up there. You can throw them all up there. Um, have you nurtured relationships outside of your general circle during the stay-at-home orders? I'm thinking like people that you could see more often, but generally you have your circle is kind of what I'm going for here. Um, and has it been easier to spend time or hang out with friends during this time? It's not a great sentence, not a great question in terms of use of words, but during this period, during this stay at home. I hate using the same word twice in a sentence. Why or why not? So Tammy says, I've nurtured one work relationship and I've become friends with this one person during this time. Um, I live in the suburbs now, and I have this group of people that live in Chicago that also have kids, so like there are a lot of reasons that we can get together, but it's hard, especially when you're raising kids and you have responsibilities, where you live, whether it's kid stuff, or just local friends and neighbors that you're giving more of your time to. But for me, what was really good during this period was all the amount um, of times I was hanging out with people that are just a couple towns over through the online through the online modalities. It almost seemed like for one period of time I was talking with this one friend like every day. We were hanging out for a few minutes, or watching TV together, or putting on some type of some type of sporting thing that we were watching together when sports came back. Um, and so I'd say it's been easier to hang out with friends uh, during this time, because I don't know, they just felt like less so than a phone call. Um, it was just easy, kind of cool to be on the video and see what they're doing, and but also not be in the same room. It was kind of fun. And then as I'm reflecting on this a little more, I think I kind of hit the wall with some of the online hanging. So I was using House Party a lot. Um, and so you had like groups of people every 2 or 3 days. And I'm finding less interest in that now, or it's just more cumbersome or energy draining to have to be on. And maybe that's Zoom fatigue. What does Denise say? I found it easier to have virtual contact with a friend that relocated to Africa a few years ago, for sure. Whether around the corner or around the world, communication felt the same. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I agree with that. I've connected with my wife's family a lot more, says Andrew. I was included in a very specific small bubble of people in her family for birthday and holiday celebrations, and it was a lot of fun taking time in a year that slowed life down to get to know her circle more and to really become part of her side of the family after she and I got married last year. Gonna keep nurturing those relationships moving forward. Yeah, that's great. Um, yeah, that kind of getting back to this Zoom fatigue thing. Um, it all of a sudden got harder to want to connect, just have those daily conversations, because I was like, ugh, I'm so sick of this. Um, Here's Tammy. The majority of my social circle is family, as well as a small group of online friends I've been with for over 20 years. They've already been online. I think since everyone other than my daughters and grandkids, whom I live with, are far away, we just keep connecting the same way we did pre-COVID. And Dana was hosting an art group once a week, but then it died off. I plan to start it back up due to responses from the group lately. Yeah, that was kind of like how it was for me. We were playing different games online. We were playing a lot of Cards Against Humanity type games, or other card games on there, and it was a lot of fun. And we kind of set the date, and for those that drank, they'd have their wine ready, and it was it was really great for a minute. It's kind of, as I'm reflecting on it now, I didn't think it's gone away, but now I'm realizing a lot of it has gone away, um, or faded, and maybe it won't come back. But like with online cafes, for instance, or like the work we've all been doing, um, while we've had to be working from home, or inability to see or meet clients at their house, there's got to be some aspect of this that will continue, and I hope that does. And maybe that's all based on the type of effort I put into it, as well as others. Um, we played some online D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, earlier in the pandemic, but it just wasn't the same vibe of gathering around a table as friends. So they're just waiting until next year. Okay, later this year. Very good. Well, we're kind of at 12:26, so feel free to keep posting in here. Our time is almost done, but I just want to move through the remainder of the slides and close us out for today. So you're already joining us in the journey, but you can even join us further on social media. This is our Facebook page you could follow us on. These are some links to upcoming webinars, our Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and Andrew's put that in there. Bye, Tammy. Great to see you. Thank you for being here. Here's a list of what we've got coming up next week, as well as tomorrow, which we always close off our Vitality Week with Vitality Cafe, a truncated one. But hope you'll join us tomorrow for a social Vitality Cafe. And then next week we'll be jumping into environmental vitality, which is always a really cool one, a cool domain, because I always think about it. It's nature and also my home. So how do I get the junk out of here, and how do I also make nature better? But I hope you'll join us through one of these topics um, next week. We also have a lot of resources that use these domains as kind of the organizing framework. Obviously, our Journey to Vitality cafes use those. And like if you're familiar with parent cafes that are based on the protective factors as the organizing framework, it's similar here, except using these domains, and there are 6 of them versus 5 protective factors. We also have a new resource, Recovering Together, Cafe in a Box, for those conversations around recovery related to addiction. Uh, those are also organized around these domains. And then we have these beautiful posters that are great for your center program, but really are kind of like little works of art. And they each address one of the areas of vitalities. If you're interested, you can find these on our website, bestrongfamilies.org/resources. Thank you, Andrew. And then we can move to the next slide, or that is the last slide. That could be the last slide. In which case, I'm going to be saying good afternoon to you. Um, and I want to thank you, everyone that joined this conversation and shared their comments today, and listened to me without interrupting. But what choice did you have? You didn't have audio on. But it was great to have you all. We appreciate your support through this past year, and as a part of this series. And visit us again at bestrongfamilies.org. Sign up for next week's webinar, for tomorrow's cafe. Learn more about our training and resources. And thank you, Laura and Roxana. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Nina, Deborah. Or Najma, not Nina. I appreciate, and thank you for that compliment. Lawan, thank you. Denise, bless you all. Have a great rest of the day, and I will sign off. And Andrew, thank you for helping run things. Gosh, I'm sorry I almost left you off. And have a great rest of the day, everybody, and close out the week